Hey, thank you all for coming tonight. My name's Greg Rosado. I'm Chairman of Burdekin Renewable Fuels. Tonight we have a presentation from Mr Simon Newman, Sky Renewables, on a project to palletise, briquette tops and trash to gasify, to send into Singapore to be burnt for electricity, or the gas, burnt in turbines. First of all, I want to welcome the Mayor tonight, Perina. Thank you very much for coming, Perina. That's very much appreciated. And Councillors John Fennell and Callan Orr, and Deputy Mayor, I'm told, Max Musamisi. He's very... But no, thank you very much for coming. It is appreciated. So, Burdekin Renewable Fuels, I'll go back a bit. We've been looking into diversifying the cane crop now since around 2016, 2017 we started. We've looked at various different opportunities. The times are a bit early for some of the technologies, which is a shame, but in time they will come. But there is a here and now, and to burn and gasify are known technologies that are here and now. So what we need to do is to do a study into looking at the final cost of collecting all the tops and trash in the Burdekin at the start and gasifying it and sending it to over to Singapore. And in the future that might add on to other countries as well in Asia. So I'm going to introduce Simon Yim. He's going to come up and give you the presentation, and then after that we're going to have a bit of a panel and some questions from the crowd. So please make Simon feel welcome, and he's going to do the presentation.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Overwhelming. I have never seen that much enthusiasm, and I think it's important that we keep it that way. Right. Before I start, grab a beer. It's more interesting if you're half drunk. So anyway, let me just go through my presentation. I'll be really brief and ask questions anytime you want. Oops. Right, this is Greg Rosato and me back in 2017. I don't know about him, but I certainly look younger. So Sky Renewable have been working in the Burdekin since 2018. 2017 is when I first came here, opportunistically. We didn't really plan for anything, but then I saw the vast amount of resources here, and I knew for a fact that Japan is crying out for biomass pellets in order to create a renewable power generation stream after Fukushima. So I thought this is an opportunity, and time flies. Now I'm here. I'm going to see my 8th harvest in a month's time, but you know, it's fun time. I enjoy being here. So far, we have spent about $5 million of our own money, and we have brought together a team. Not the youngest team you see for a startup, but everyone is hugely experienced in what they do, and some of you have met them before. Our goal is very simple. Our goal is to create more diversified and stable income for growers by maximizing the value of the sugarcane crop. I'm not trying to go after sugar. Sugar is already spoken for, and we have people who are sort of buying the sugarcane and turning the sugar as a revenue for you. What we are looking at is what's been left out. The stuff that's been left out is the top and trash. Along the process, we like to align the mill's interest with the growers. I know the history, I know what's going on, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to work together. And our project, they are large scale, and we are looking to invest hundreds of millions into Queensland. The Burdekin is just our first stop, and it's the most favorable stop for us. And if it works, we're going to expand the rest of Queensland. We like to create jobs, reinvigorate the communities. I look foreign, I sound foreign, but I've been here often enough to understand that there is a lot we can do here if we can create more wealth, more well-being, and attract people to stay and to pass on this very important agricultural business. And along the way, we can avoid burning. For our shareholders, which I hope some of you will become, we talk about four things. In any business, you need four things. You need profitability, you need stability, you need sustainability, you need growth. If you have these four things, you'll be successful. In terms of profitability, we are looking at generating minimum of 15% net profitability under long-term contracts. So for example, if we sell our feedstock to a Japanese or Singaporean off-taker, they will pay us a price that's going to allow us to generate that level of profit over the long term. It'll be very stable. It'll be indexed to CPI. So I understand that your cost of growing cane has grown up year on year. But if we have this kind of contract, there are what we call escalation clauses, i.e., if we're selling it for $10 today, next year, if CPI is 2%, it becomes 12. And then we also have other automatic escalations, so you are protected on the downside as a result of inflation. Stability. In our project, everything is back to back. We need a long-term contract from growers to supply. We need a long-term offtake contract for customers to buy. So everything is back to back, and I'm not kidding you. Our off-takers in Japan and Singapore is a lot more desperate than us because they need the power. And the last thing they would want to do is to renew the contract. Especially in the case of Japan, they buy energy from Australia for a long time. They need to honor those contracts, which means after we sign, it's going to be stable income. Sustainability, I don't need to explain this. Sugarcane's been growing for a long time and for a long time to come. Growth. We are here in the Burdekin. I see people coming from other regions in Queensland as well. We can expand this to the rest of Queensland and other places in the world, who knows. So in terms of growth, there's plenty of room. Any business who have these four elements will have the key to success. Okay, why are we talking about Singapore and Japan? Let's figure this one out. This is Queensland. This is Singapore. This is not according to the scale, it should be smaller. Queensland has the size of 2,000 Singapores. But Singapore has 300,000 more people. So imagine the kind of resources they need to sustain. Singapore imports 95% of its energy, and it has the highest GDP per capita in all of Asia. Japan is 1/5 the size of Queensland. Japan is even worse. Japan has got 123 million people who has got no resources, no natural resources for their fuel. And again, they import 95% of its energy. Bio-LNG, I'll explain that later. Pellets are the only renewable fuel that can be transported across the ocean in its original form. We're not building underground cables from Darwin to Singapore. We are not trying to figure out how to export hydrogen. This is well established. What we have done so far is we've connected all the dots. You are here, and the off-takers are here. We need to connect every part of the way. And somebody will tell you the technology, the off-take is the most important. But if you look at this value chain, everything starts here. And that's why we are devoting most of our time here rather than here. Because if we can produce, they will buy. Let's rethink about this. It's not about this, it's about this. Why are we doing this if we know somebody's going to pay money to buy what we burn today? Singapore has come knocking. Why? Singapore has got a very small installed base of power generators, only 14,000 megawatts, but 95% of which is LNG-fired, natural gas, liquefied natural gas imported from other places in Southeast Asia, from Australia. LNG is good news and bad news. It's good news because it's not nearly as polluting as coal. Bad news is it's very hard to decarbonize LNG. There are only two ways. You either blend it with green hydrogen or you blend it with biomethane. Singapore government has ruled out green hydrogen because it's just too far away, too costly. The only way they can decarbonize the power generation is by biomethane. The other point is Singapore is very serious about getting to net zero. This is the carbon tax they are imposing. Singapore has got the highest carbon tax in all of Asia. Today, if you are emitting carbon dioxide, you pay 25 Sing dollars per ton. Sing dollars to Aussie is 1 to 1.2. By 2030, if you're still emitting per ton of CO2, you'll be paying 80, around 100 Aussie dollars per ton. So if you are an average size power plant, you'll be paying $70, $80 million in fines when they come to 2030. And so is Japan. Japan's knocking on the door too. We were talking about using tops and trash to make pellets to send to Japan in the past. That didn't go very far, I think, for two reasons. We tried for two reasons. Number one, the yen exchange rate has really gone through the roof. When we started in 2017, yen was 116 to a US dollar. The height of things, they are 157. This morning I checked 143. If you are a power generator in Japan, you get paid by yen. But when you pay for fuel to us, you pay US dollar, which kind of kill all the economics. And the other point about Japan is they talk about net zero all the time, but Japan doesn't have a carbon stick. It doesn't have a carbon tax, which makes it very hard for the players in Japan to really go for lower emission or renewable fuel. There is one opportunity that came up just last few weeks in terms of Japan's interest for biomethane. There is this company called Sojitz. Sojitz is not an energy company. It's a second-tier trading house. They are after the Mitsuis, the Marubeni's, the Mitsubishis. They used to own, I think they still do, own a lot of coal mines in Australia, and they make a killing selling coal because coal price has been going up. And what they're trying to do right now is they want to get into biomethane. And I'll explain that, and I can answer the question as well. Biomethane is very hard to come by in Asia. There is basically no production of large-scale biomethane in Asia. And so GIS actually went to New South Wales to sign up a project to use water sludge to produce biomethane. It is a very inefficient way and a very land-consuming way. So we talked to them about this, and next thing I knew, the COO for Asia and Oceania is coming to Brisbane to sit with me next Monday, and we're going to talk, see what the next steps are. But I want to go back to Singapore. In Singapore, we have two very tangible targets. Singapore has a number of generation companies, 4 or 5. We are talking to the two largest, Sembcorp and Tuas Power. They are all running LNG-fired combined cycle gas turbines, and they all need biomethane to decarbonize. The mechanism is pretty simple. We collect the tops and trash, and I'll talk about how we collect later on. And we process the top and trash on site in the Burken and process them into briquettes, which is basically less moisture and higher density. Then we need to ship them to a gas hub in Australia, in Queensland. I think the usual suspect is Gladstone and maybe others. And build a factory there to gasify and methanate tops and trash briquettes, and then liquefy it, and then send it off to Singapore in a regular LNG tanker. It sounds complicated, but it's doable very much, because in Europe, biomass gasification has been going on for decades. So it's nothing new, technology is there. And what we figure is, if we think about all the tops and trash in the Burdekin, plus a fallow crop, we are advocating a unified fallow crop, which has got a lot of fiber. We're thinking about things like sunham. Obviously, we need to do a lot more research to understand whether that is a good crop for everybody to grow. But if we grow sunham altogether, and 1/5 of the volume of cane, so we have 8 million tons of cane, we go into fallow every 5 years, so we have 1.6 million tons of sunham every year, and the whole crop can be used for biomethane. So all of a sudden, we've got enough to support 225 million tons of biomethane. And assuming we make $3 per ton, we're looking at upwards of 30 million profit just for one project in the Burdekin. So why Sembcorp? Sembcorp is 49% owned by the Singapore government through a government sovereign fund called Temasek. Temasek, we're talking to them. I'm going to see them again in Singapore next Friday. They want to invest in us in order to secure the biomethane for Sembcorp. And the importance of having Temasek on board is you have a 49% owned government company wanting to do business in the Burdekin. And it would be very persuasive when it comes to asking Wilma for the collaboration. The other project in Singapore is Project Flame, which is to do with pellets. This is the only coal-fired unit in Singapore. It's 133 megawatts. In short, they need 1 million tons. They could not find it anywhere. They came to me and said, can we have 1 million tons, please? And what they can offer is about 20 to 30 US dollar net profit for us on a per ton basis. And the better news is they got a space next door, which they can build a similar size unit, which means in due course, they're gonna need 2 million tons at 20 to 30 US dollar per ton net profit for us. So you do the math, it's 50, 60 million net profit on the long-term contract going forward. We actually have maintained a good relationship with the Singapore government, the Energy Market Authority. I had the pleasure of taking a group of grower representatives to go to visit in February. So we got representatives from CBL, from QCAR, individual growers, and we were there. We were really welcomed by the EMA because they understand how important this resource is to them. On the trip, we present a letter of support from Minister Dale Lars. Actually, he sent his apologies for not being able to make it tonight. He's on the plane. But we came back to him after the trip and say, we need your continued support. And I have sit down with his senior policy advisor to go through the project. What's important about this is our project is commercially viable after final investment decision. You see a lot of projects, they have an idea, they don't know how to work it out, they don't have a customer, they go to the government and say, can I please have a few millions so that I can see if it works? And if it does, we'll figure it out. We come from the other direction. We have customers in Singapore saying we want it. We have customers in Japan saying they want it. And we're coming back here and say to all the growers, can we actually look at this? And we can do the feasibility. The feasibility is not about proving whether or not it works. It's about showing the banks that we got the feasibility. That is what we call bankable. So it's not a pie in the sky. It's just a process. For example, making briquettes, how hard can it be, right? You just take the tops and trash, cut them, dry them, compress them. That's briquettes. In terms of gasification, it's been done in Europe for decades. We are talking to people like Shell, Honeywell, Linde, all are top-notch names. It's not a new technology. So we're not trying to prove that it works. We're going to show the numbers to tell people this is the kind of profit we're going to make. I want to get that point across to Minister Lars because we're not looking for handouts. We're just asking the government to support us along the way. And if we get to FID, we'll be generating so much revenue for everybody, including the government, in terms of tax. So this is how we are going to proceed. And last week, I also made a presentation to the Parliamentary Committee of the Primary Industries and Resources Committee of the Queensland Parliament. We had a really good reception. One of the MP members on the committee was actually from Mackay. He came down from the stage after the presentation and shook my hands and congratulated me on our efforts because nobody in that room talked about tops and trash. They were talking about bagasse, they were talking about other feedstocks, SAF, but bagasse is so fundamental, it's so useful. We are the only one talking about it, and this MP from Mackay, he's from a grower family, he understands how it all works, and he really appreciates what we're trying to do. Timeline, don't bother with those small prints. If we do a biomethane project, it'll be 4 years before you see your first check. If we're talking about a pelleting project, it's 24 months because you don't need to do the gasification part. I always like to be able to be the voice of the growers. I know I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I think you guys will understand what we mean by here, the purpose, the livelihood, the succession, the community. I think we are well positioned to speak out with one voice. And with the government's policy on using sugarcane as a biofuel, and with the intergovernment support between Singapore and Queensland and Australia, both parties managed to stay in power. the ruling party in Singapore to secure 87 of the 97 parliamentary seats. So things will go on as business as usual. And I think our Prime Minister will visit Singapore in November. We're trying to work this into his agenda because nobody else is. How you can be a part of this? So I think we have come to a point we need to demonstrate growers' commitment to this project. When we're able to demonstrate that, we can go to the government and say, see, all the growers are behind this. We can go to the investor and say, we've solved a big problem about supply, and the offtake is already there. It's investable. And when we talk to the offtaker like a Samcorp or a Trustpower or a Sojitz, the first thing they want to know is, are the growers on board? And if we can get growers' commitment, they will get comfortable. So what we're trying to do here is to ask for your support. Our ask is, can we actually have each of you sign up a 36 months exclusivity? During the period, you're not going to talk to anybody else about tops and trash. I don't know if anyone is talking to you about that, but I think it's we've spent 7 years, so it's not a instant project. I'm asking you to let us have the room to run this for the next up to 36 months. The other ask we have is for you to put skin in the game. I want to ask each grower to put 20 cents per ton of cane they grow. So if you're a 10,000 tons grower, you put in $2,000. And the money is not going to my bank account, it's going to an escrow account, which nobody can touch. I have just talked to Owen and Ricky Mill. They are willing to be the co-signatory of that account so that the money will remain there unless we all agree to move it. And what will happen to that money is, if we close the project within 36 months, that money will turn into equity in the project. If we don't, then the money will be returned to you with interest. So it's not us asking for money for us to work on, it's about you putting skin in the game to show the world that you're on board. And we're not going to touch the money. We cannot. And in return, what we're offering is this. We will try our best, and I think we can do it, to negotiate a price per ton of green trash at about 15 Aussie dollars. So if you are a 10,000 ton grower, assuming 20% of which is trash, 2,000 tons, you'll be getting $3,000 every year for your tops and trash you burn today. Sorry? $30,000 for the trash you burn today. Obviously, there is no guarantee, but the interesting thing about biomethane is it's not a commodity, meaning there is no uniform price for it, which means our negotiating position with Singapore would be on a cost-plus basis, which means we lumped up all the costs and add a 10 to 15% net margin, and they will have to take it. I won't go into details, but at some point I'm going to show you that the amount of the price we're asking for is actually equal to what they pay for LNG plus carbon tax plus carbon offset. So we are very competitive. So people ask me a lot of questions about extra costs in harvesting, in logistics. Those will all be on us. So you will not be paying any more cost than you are spending today, and you get that 30,000 for the tops and trash. The other thing we are offering, I think is important, if you appreciate the potential profitability of the project, is you can choose not to get the money, but instead invest the money into the project. And that would be a point when the project is already signed, so you're not taking any project risk, except for daily operation. And if you do that, you'll be owning a part of the project. And I'm willing to take out 20% of what I own to all the growers collectively. So all of a sudden, when this thing gets signed, you'll be turning things you burn today into a revenue stream and an equity stream. So this is what we offer in return. And I want to emphasize, this is of no extra cost to you. We'll bear all the costs. Good news is, people think about, if you do whole of crop harvesting, how much more money to spend, if you need more bins. Again, this is a cost-plus model. We're going to lump everything up. And in terms of bins, for example, we did the calculation. In terms of bins, say Invicta, we need another 2,500 bins, right? More cropping because of whole crop harvesting. say it costs about 14 grand each. I work out that on a per ton basis is 22 cents. We can afford it, especially when it's a cost plus basis. Don't worry about the cost. We'll bear it. And what I'm asking you to do is simply to say, when this all works, I'll be supplying. In the meantime, I'll give you a vote of confidence and show the world that we are committed by doing this. Sorry, it's a lot to digest. If you want this presentation, I got my business card there. Send me an email. I'll send it to you. I don't want to make tonight my night. I want to be yours. So I'm going to introduce a few panelists to come up here and to have Q&As, question and answers among yourselves to sort of make this a little bit more clear. So tonight we have Brett Rosato. Can you please come up? Owen Mankins, please come up. Christian Lago, Greg Bishop, Ricky Mill. And we'll have Ryan to moderate this discussion. So we'll ask them questions, and feel free to ask them questions. You can point to Greg and say, I want to ask you, or you can throw out Jet.
I don't think I'm any different to anybody else, and I think at the end of the day, we all sit back and we look at our properties and we look at our towns, and we look at everything outside our window, and we think, how long will this last? And the other thing I think we also think about is, what control do we have in our industries, or what control do we have in our life going forward? There is only, and we've all grown different crops. We've all, played with different things, and the beauty with a cane crop, it mitigates so much, and it also ensures an income stream regardless of what the environment throws at us. But why are we only limiting ourselves to crystal? One of the probably the attraction with Simon, I found it quite fascinating going to Singapore and actually meeting the government and getting their perspective on we are so fortunate with the space and what we have around us, and we go to a country that is so limited on area and trying to make do with what they've got. So with Simon's project, it's based around control. It's based around utilising something that we burn. I'd rather not burn. Don't get me wrong, I love a fire. I love lighting the damn things, but it's also a risk. Why burn something that you can make money on? It's that simple. The other thing, a lady said to me a while back, going back about 5 years ago, and cane's a really unique crop. It's not like a grain crop where you just pick the fruit. You actually take in the whole crop. It's always the whole crop. So she mentioned, and we should be looking at cane like a mine it. And I just think there is so many pros with what Simon's put forward than what we're already doing. That's my thoughts.
Great. You're more familiar with international sugar industries and what other countries might be doing. What can you tell us about other country sugar industries and how they're diversifying, or what they're doing differently to here?
The thing that's most frustrating about the Australian sugar industry is we're making sugar. What else are we doing with the sugar cane? It's embarrassing when you go to Brazil, Thailand, and you see all the other things that they're doing. Now, there's reasons for that, of course, but this project provides an opportunity to do something else with the sugar cane. It's not the complete answer to all the things we can do, but it's something. The other thing that was shocking to me is I'm very close with the people in the Thailand sugar industry, and they actually made a law banning the burning of cane, and it's being implemented right now. So every year the amount of cane that's allowed to be burned reduces, and I think in 3 or 4 years' time, Owen, it's going to be zero. They're not allowed to burn any cane. So if Thailand's doing that, I worry about the risk of burning here and how long we're going to be allowed to keep doing it. So this project not only solves that problem, but you get paid for it. So that's why I'm spending my time. I know you all think I'm retired, but I said I'm going to do one job if it comes along. I want to help the Australian industry do other stuff with sugarcane, and this project ticked that box for me. It made sense to me.
Owen, what risk, more broadly, do you see to the sugar industry, especially from like a government point of view or different, impacts that you don't have control over?
Yeah, well, I mean, our industry is beholden to the world market, which is, as Greg would know, is fairly difficult to predict. And obviously, we're in the market of sugar, and as growers, that's essentially where we get our payment. So we're also beholden to government policy, and with regard to many different issues. We've obviously got the reef regulations, and there's other regulations that can come upon us that I wouldn't say we don't have any control over, but sometimes it can come unexpectedly and can be difficult. I think as an industry, we need to always continue to look to improve, come up with new ideas. I mean, projects with regard to burning, Chris Canavan and Joe Litton, and those projects 25 years ago, we were looking at projects, and some of them obviously didn't stack up, but I think it's important to always look around. And Simon's project was probably different to a lot of those other projects in that the market is secured. It's just a matter of getting everything else at the front end worked out, which is exciting, and it's an opportunity for growers to invest in the project, which wasn't really an option for a lot of those other projects. So I think, there's a lot to go on here, and there's a lot of things we've got to cross. But I mean, you've always got to look to improve your revenue as a grower, and you've got to look at different options for the sugarcane plant.
So just thinking of your own business, if you partner with Sky Renewables to do this, does it impact your business? Do you reduce the amount you produce? Does it change the way you produce it? How do you see it impacting your business, your farm?
Well, what I find appetising is we're value adding. We're adding another revenue stream that we don't have. It's very much on topic at the moment, renewables. You just got to look at Singapore they need energy and they want clean energy. So this is a legitimate, and they're prepared to pay for it. So, this is a good way for us to take advantage of that market and add value to our own businesses. With Simon's project, I see a lot of merit in it. There are a lot of strings attached and a lot more hoops that we're going to jump through, and I'm sure there's a lot of farmers in the room here that won't be backward and coming forward and pointing those points out. But I think for Simon tonight, he's got to a point where he needs support from growers. He needs that assurance that this project can move forward. He wants a commitment. He's asked for a financial commitment, and that's something that I know a lot of you guys won't take lightly. But if for projects like this to go ahead, I think everyone needs to put in a financial commitment, and hopefully, and share in the equity of the project and the profits of the project. That's what I've got. Yep. Thank you.
Greg, you support the project. You've been researching biofuels. Why do you think growers should support your project? And have you, of the agreement that Simon's proposing that everyone's, have you spoken to a lawyer or accountant or someone that professional to look over anything or what their thoughts are?
Look, I fully support the project. We've Richard Wall and myself, we've been working and looking like our people did before us, always looking and like I say, things mightn't be right for this time. There are certain technologies that just won't cut the mustard right now, but in 5 years' time it might. And before that, and it just comes in at the right time. This one's coming in at the right time. The stars are aligning, and the need for sustainable energy, doesn't matter what you believe, but it's there, the demand is there for it. So, if we've got something to deliver them, to let them have their sustainable energy, well, let's try bloody hard at supplying it, you know what I mean? It's, it's not no until we know all of the facts, but all those facts will be known at some stage. This money that if you do put a financial, some money forward, well, you know, it's not going to be taken away. It's going into account. It's going to be safe, and Simon's taken the risk. Now, I don't know in life where you think, you know, you're ever going to get an opportunity without risk. And this is some risk we're going to take, but really it's not our financial pocket, it's Simon's financial pocket. And if it falls over, you know, we will go back to doing what we were doing yesterday, and, you know, you're doing what you were doing. He's lost all the money, you know, but he's willing to take that risk. You know, that's why he's here. But then again, you know, everyone in here, if we want to take the risk as well, you know, and if you want to do better for your family, you've got to take risks. Otherwise, you know, this industry, you know, the increased cost of production and everything, we've got to overcome it. And this is one possible opportunity of a way of starting to overcome it, you know, and with that, we can maybe make more value as we move forward with the products that we own. You know, this is our product. It's not the bloody Mills product. So it's starting to take hold of what we own and moving it forward. It's a natural step. That's my 2 cents.
Who's got some questions? You can direct it at individuals, you can just throw it at the panel. Throw it forward. The first one's always the hardest.
How are we going to get the charge to wherever the public's in place?
In the
Through
Gladstone.
bins?
Yeah, look, that'll be,
Bins got to be on board.
yeah, Wilma will have to be on board, and as you can see, part of this project, Anthony, is looking in, yeah.
I think I'll take that one. You know why we went to Singapore? It's because Wilma is from Singapore. If you're a Mr. Kwok, 76 years old, have more money than he ever wanted in the next 10 lives, what would you want if you were him? You want to leave a legacy. And as desperate as Singapore is, what better legacy than to be able to say, I am the father of renewables in Singapore? That's our starting point. And then you look at economics, right? So Wilma is thinking about using more bagasse to send power to the grid. You think about the economics comparison. Today, a sunny day, you don't really sell much renewable power, it's all solar. Even if you do, the renewable tariff in Australia is roughly 40, 50 US dollars per megawatt hour. And you don't have long-term contracts, which means you get dispatched at the pleasure of the grid, at the objective environment of what's happening. And then you go to Singapore. Singapore offer long-term contract. They are more worried about us not supplying than them not buying. And Singapore, the guys we're talking to, for the pellets, they are signing a corporate power purchase agreement with Google. And if you're a Google, you want to be in Singapore to set up your data centers. Singapore has only got two problems. One is land, one is renewable energy. The government has tendered 250 megawatt of data center, and the Googles of the world, the Amazons of the world, have to come up with their own renewable energy plan. I talked to Google in Singapore, that's where the Asia headquarters is. Right off the gate, they offer 300 Singapore dollars per megawatt hour under 20 years contract. I press 350, which translates to about 420 Aussie dollars per megawatt hour under a long-term contract, and your counterparty is the richest company in the world. That's your difference. So I'm not going to go to Wilma with love. I'm going to go to them with numbers. And a few of these guys were in the Singapore government meeting with me. The number 2 of the Energy Market Authority, he was ready to pick up the phone and call Wilma because he wanted this to happen. I said, hold on, we need to do more analytics. And when I talk about Sembcorp just now, I talk about their 49% shareholder being Temasek, the government. Imagine in a room where the numbers don't lie, and you have the full backup of the Singapore government. I don't believe we're not going to get the attention of Wilma Singapore. So that's how it's going to work. I'm not going to lie to you. The project won't make much sense without Wilma. But I'm not asking for love. I'm not asking for indulgence. I'm saying, let's make money together. What's wrong with it? And there are other benefits as well. Not burning, they get cleaner billets and other things. So it's a challenge, and I understand that. I've been here long enough to understand how big the challenge is, but I'm kind of doing this on the back of the Singaporean government support. This government staying in power, this is the 16th election they won, and they won 87 out of 97 seats. So who's going to not listen to the government, including Mr. Kwok, when you know they're going to be in power forever, and they can really do something about it if they don't like what they see? This is what I'm counting on, and the basic economics.
Brilliant. Now you keep that. Just pass it on.
Simon, I'm sure there are plenty of people in this room thinking it will never work. I've heard it said many, many times. The market situation, you seem to have that well and truly under control. And at this point, that's not the subject that we are worried about. We are worried about the logistics of physically getting the product from the paddock to wherever it needs to go, and legitimately have the manpower, the machinery power, and everything to do it. At the end of the day, if you look back through the industry, you look back at Arthur Canavan, creator of chopper harvesters. I'm sure before chopper harvesters came in, nobody could determine that it could be done. We've got, Mr. Potland, who's billet planting, who developed the billet planter, and that all come from the Burdekin. What's happening now? Everybody's billet planting. So, we just got to look at the potential of the individuals within the industry. There's a lot of smart heads out here. When it really means that there's a buck in it for us, there's value to carry that through. One of the things I have concern with is I'm really concerned that sooner or later we are not going to keep the wolves from the door, and we'll end up like Singapore, and someone will say, stop burning, boys. What's this district going to do in that situation? We really need to be ahead of the game, and we need to be in a position where that product is, who cares? Let's go and make some money out of it.
Thank you, Joe. I'll let the panel answer, and then I'll probably wrap up. I think they're all smarter than me, so probably answer your question better.
Joe, I reckon you answered your own question there, and you're dead right. The Burdekin is full of innovators, and I think when it comes down to what we need to do, the Burdekin will get it done. We've done it before, and it'll happen again. It always does. So when it comes down to it, we'll get it done. They just give it time, and there's going to be, you're going to need to iron out some issues here and there. But in general, I think, the innovation already speaks for itself that comes out of the Burdekin. So, we should never underestimate what we can achieve, as a group of people.
Anybody wants to add to that? Sorry, I'll take a question next.
You're right, Joe. That's the biggest concern for me is the logistics side. We struggle with workers now. We don't have the machines to, I don't think, cut a green crop of cane. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be, ironed out, obviously, for this project to be a success. But if there's $1 in it, you can find a way. That's probably the take home. If there's $1 in it, you may be able to, build a few bridges and get across those hurdles.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll stand up if you don't mind. Wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement. But let's get to the facts. When you put green trash in a cane bin, your weight drops by 50%. So double your fleet straight away. You know that. So, and I think no point, I 100% agree with everyone in the room in saying that, yes, you'll find ways. You've gone from 3-ton bins to 4-ton bins to 5-ton bins, 6-ton bins. You've gone from single carting haul outs to double to triple, so to 20-ton haul outs. So you have progressed over time quite reasonably and quite sustainably. Your only hold up at the moment in this industry is actually your siding capacities and your mill. That is the biggest hold up. Simon is correct. The reason why he went to Singapore is because of Mr. Kwok. And one of the biggest things that I find really interesting is if this agreement is to come off, and I'm quite confident that Simon will create this agreement. This is a trade deal, first and foremost. So trade deals is a whole different level. The second thing is when Simon is in that room and Mr. Kwok's in that room, at some point that will happen. The government's also going to be in the room. The owners of the investors are also the Singapore government. They will make sure this will happen, which will mean Mr. Kwok will have to make sure these mills are at full production. Otherwise, Singapore loses power. It's that simple. Singapore at the moment, and you've got AI, you've got data storage, you've got so much. Over the next 5 years, power demand in Singapore, actually across the world, will increase by 100%. Now they're saying 70%, but they're being conservative because demand, the uptake of AI is crazy at the moment. So the power demand is huge. So there's a lot of scenarios, and there's still a lot of steps that Simon has to achieve to get to this end result. But in the back of your mind, and this is one thing that the farmers can do really well, is number one, have some sort of concept or some sort of idea how you're going to cart the entire product to the line that's going to go to the mill. Once it hits the line, it's their problem. They've got to make sure the trains are there to take it away. The other thing that also will come in is any other products that you may choose to grow on your property in a fallow period that will also operate in the same manner. So it's not just based on sugarcane. What you'll also find is that your varieties will change because your process, your thinking will change because you are no longer looking at this crop solely as sugar. You are now looking at it as sugar and energy. So your demand, your desire for a new variety is going to increase, which will put pressure on the breeders, which is a good thing and needs to happen.
One question, Ricky.
Yep.
That's what you're saying. They're chasing fibre, but why don't you just grow sugar cane only for fibre? And they'll get everything they want.
Who's they?
Sorry,
Who's they?
who's they?
Yeah.
They're Singaporeans.
Yep. Can do that. You've also got to keep in mind that you lose credits if you take an item that is food-based and turn it into energy, whether it's a SAF fuel-based or anything like that, you lose your carbon credits. Singapore also wants the carbon credits.
Excuse me, obviously, the mills will go broke, the country will go backwards, but if they want only energy fibre, that's the only way to go.
Yeah.
A sugar cane that only produces fibre, not sugar.
I think in this whole discussion, and the person that keeps getting let in the cupboard, never heard, is actually the producer. It's always that upper level or another level that discusses the benefits of our industry, whether it's government departments, whether it's a miller, whoever.
I'm surprised that nobody's thought about it.
I'm not.
It's a waste product.
I'm not. I don't think it's a case of no one thought of it. I think no one knew how to talk to the grower. Because at the end of the day, that's who's going to implement it. It's not going to be the mill. It's not going to be Singapore. It's not going to be Simon. It's the people in the room. So the connection between a milling company and the producer is not there. That's the big problem. So it's not a case I didn't think of it. It's a case I didn't know how to get to it. And at the end of the day, they don't want to pay for it. That's the other issue. And the whole point of being with Simon or someone in this situation, I want to get paid. I want to claw back some of my ownership of this entire crop. That's what I want. Terry.
Yeah, you guys all know that I've been in the industry my whole life and support anything that we can do to value add in this industry. There's also my brother and I love to breed in the Canadian where everyone comes for 40 years, so we understand what it takes to harvest breed. What I would personally like to see out of this, and I'm not grower, but big part of the industry, is economic analysis on the systems. So basically, whole crop harvest, put it in the bin, take it that way, separate it at the mill, or do we separate it before it gets to the bins, or do we throw it on the ground and pick it up? Now, I know the sugar green is looking at all this, but it does cost more to harvest green. We do know that. Putting full crop through is shipping animals, which is an extractive crop, and there's a lot of savings there. We have got some big crops that we will struggle with. So maybe plant cane beds removed from this whole scenario. And it's sort of second, third, and there's 200 tonnes of areas where it's large. The latest that they got called up before. Every meeting I've been to the last 2 weeks was about how do we improve the harvesting sector, have some sort of sustainable process going forward, how do we get to all our operators, what do we do to support that? There, to me, I think you need detailed economic analysis of that to make sure that the numbers add up, so that when you actually get your $30 billion at the end of it, you actually haven't already blown it. Getting to that. But don't get me wrong, I'm trying not to be negative. I'm very positive about this sort of thing. I think it's great. But I'm just sort of.
Yeah. Thank you for your question. I'll take it and then I'll get the panel to add to it.
I was very curious about why you've answered the question,
Yeah.
which is great. First thing I thought was when I grabbed the title. Title is right there. I see the connection now between Singapore. So that makes sense.
Thailand is different. I went to Thailand. Thailand, the mills own everything. You own the cane, right? So why am I going to Thailand if the people I need to talk to is in this room, right? You go to Thailand, you go to Midpoint, parent of MSF. I went to them, I spent a year with them. And the only thing that bogged us down was I said, okay, we're taking you to Japan, we do the pallets, can we have exclusivity for that market? No. So we're going to learn how to do it, get access to market, and we're going to screw you. That's the attitude, right? And they own the cane. You guys own the cane. But to answer your question in the easiest way, nothing is a slam dunk. And that's why nothing has happened yet. But the world has changed. The world is relentless in terms of getting renewable energy, and people are paying everything to get it. I said before, in the biomethane market, it's a cost-plus model. We just have to lump up all the costs. And we have allowed very, very conservative assumption for extra harvesting costs. We have allowed ourselves money to buy 50% more bins, that sort of stuff. It comes down to just a number, and the number is somewhere between 22 and 28 US dollar per MMBTU British thermal units of biomethane. So the Singapore guys said to Simon, oh, it's too expensive. I said, of course it's expensive. If it's not, then there is no climate change issue in the world. But then you got to be compared with apples. You cannot compare biodiesel with diesel, right? So why are you comparing renewable natural gas with LNG? But then it's still fine because, so you think about the Asia, Japan, Korea LNG market. At the height of things, it was $60 per MMBTU. Now it's back down to between 50 and 20. So if you're Singapore, if you're Japan, you buy it at 15, lower end of the range. We're selling it for 28, say 30. But don't forget, if you're Singapore, you need to pay carbon tax. So you pay about 100 Aussie dollar per ton of CO2 you emit. And if you work out the math, which we did, to translate that into what's the money per MMBTU, is $5. So all of a sudden, your costs go from 15 to 20. And then, if you use biomethane, you get carbon credits. And Singapore is a signatory of COP26 Paris, which means they have the right to sell it across border to other signatories. And the most important carbon market in the world is the EU. It's a generally accepted assumption that the carbon offset price in the EU would be about 100 US dollar per ton by 2030 or before. So all of a sudden, you're paying 20, cost of LNG plus tax. But if you blend it with biomethane, you get a rebate, carbon credit of $8, which means your total cost compared with ours is almost equal. So although we are comparing apples with a rotten apple, still we are competitive. And when I talked to Samcorp, they sent us thousands, not thousands, I'm exaggerating, hundreds of questions. The last question they asked was, can you do it within $30? They've already showed the bottom line to us. And I'm not asking you to take my answer for it. We are going to go through a lot of detailed feasibilities, and our budget for that is $9 million US. And I'm not asking you for that money because people will be willing to pay. You know, as Temasek, I made it known in the first meeting, you got to fund this. Trustpower, they said their parent want to own some of us in order to be sure they get upstream security. So JITS, the first meeting I had with them, you got to fund this. Yeah. So I'm not worried about that. It's just we need to be able to come together as a voice and as a platform to say, this is what we are able to offer. That's the largest resources in all of Asia Pacific, collectible. Don't get fooled about tens of million tons. So headline, but feedstock is about the cost of aggregating it. We have got the best infrastructure here. So this is what we're trying to do. And we will be able to answer your questions before we ask you to sign a binding contract. Not today, but we understand what the problems are. 1 second, Glenn. Anything you guys want to add? No.
This guy has a question, but
After.
you didn't want.
Yeah, Chris Kahneman. We're not questioning you about your research into that end of it, Simon. It's this end of it we're worried about. You know, I'm not sceptical. Well, I am sceptical, but I'm willing to give it a go, that's for sure. But, you know, the world has spent trillions of dollars trying to decarbonise the world, trillions, and yet the emissions are still rising, actually increasing their rise. So for us to think, it's pretty basic what we're doing. We're going to export energy. Now, if units of energy we're going to export, now if it costs us a lot more units of energy to export what that energy is worth, we may as well not have started. Now, the talk about getting all the whole biomass into the mill and separate it there will have to double the bin fleet. Not only will you have to double the bin fleet, you'll have to duplicate the lines. Mark Day from Wilmar, I was really involved with him, and he said that it's mind-blowing how much we will have to spend in getting the whole biomass to the mill. So that is units of energy. Everything we do to make this work will be units of polluting energy. We're trying to stop pollution, but we will probably pollute more than we save. That's the problem we all want to know here.
Chris, you know, getting coal out of a mine and getting it to Japan and burning a coal-fired power station over there, do you reckon there's more energy in getting it out of the dirt than what it makes over there? No, honestly.
Why do you reckon?
Of course, there's 1 unit of energy, you know, in Japan. Obviously, you know, all of this comes down to logistics and what it's going to cost. Look, your thoughts on climate change and emissions and all that, Chris, that's something else, you know.
It's the whole crux.
No, but wait a minute. If we get long-term contracts and these contracts are signed, they'll pay their contracts, even if they stop. You know what I mean? They got to keep paying. Now, but the world's going to keep doing this, and we can sit here and not do it, but that's just going to be a negative for us because, you know, we have something to offer and we're not even going to worry about offering it. You know what I mean? At a commercial rate. And this is the thing. When they want it bad enough, maybe you can get better money for it. It's just, you know what I mean?
We don't even have to go through a debate. Everybody we supply to requires what they call a life cycle carbon analysis, which means to deliver something from here, making it to there, how much carbon you're incurring, right? That's your question, right?
That's my question.
For pellets, we have registered with one of the most prestigious carbon offset organization in the world. Our carbon life cycle, carbon, is 7% of coal. 7%. Why? Because if we were to make pellets here, we're not going to use coal to make pellets. We're going to use raw tops and trash. And if we work with Wilmar, we're going to use bagasse. Imagine the entire production cycle is carbon-free. That's how we make our difference.
The sugar mill to duplicate the rail system. Well, we're going to be realistic here or not? Sure. No.
Well, that's what it's about, Chris. It's like Simon's been here for 8 years. I've only met Simon, say, in the last 3.5. He's been tenacious enough not to go away. He believes that he's got something here that he can offer the rest of the world as far as energy goes. We've, as collectives, we've come as far as we can with Simon. All right, we've facilitated him, we've helped him out wherever we could to get to this point now. And it was a couple of meetings ago. I said, Simon, we're just going round in circles here unless you go to your members. You go to the growers and you either get them on side, otherwise this project's dead in the water. Without growers, this is not going to happen. It's tonight's the night, I suppose, and whether Simon makes up his mind or not, but whether he draws the line in the sand and says, I'm going to give another 5 years to this project because I still believe it's worthwhile pursuing, or he walks away. So that's, there's plenty of people coming through the doors, knocking on the door with renewable projects, whatever else. We've got Jet Zero up in Townsville that are going to do wonders, and we know that's it's just ridiculous. Going from ethanol to jet, it doesn't stack up, not in our terms anyway. So that's what it's about tonight. It's whether the growers out there feel that they see value in Simon's what he's got to say or the project. Otherwise, we forget about it because I don't want to waste any more of my time. And I'm not having a chop at you, Chris, but this is what farmers need to decide. Are you happy to put 20 cents in and give it a crack? Otherwise, if we're not, and get a share in the equity. If not, we might as well pack it up. So I might as well go to Hong Kong and eat Peking duck.
No, I won't. Okay, one quick answer. Don't get baffled by the big headline numbers. Don't get scared by a mountain in front of you. Break it down. Cane bins, right? Take Invicta. About 4,000 cane bins, right? We double it. Another 4,000, say at 14 grand per bin. Wilma retires 5% of its bin every year, which means they last for 40 years, right? Say 30. You multiply 4,000 with 1,400. You divide it by 30, and you divide it by how many tons of cane Invicta crush? 3 million? You know what's the number per ton per year? 62 cents.
What about the rail system, Simon?
Like I said, I love capital investment. What I don't like is operation cost. Capital investment, a rail lasts for how many years? Say 50? How much it costs? And you divide everything by the number of tons it crushed. It comes down to cents. I've got to go to Glenn first.
Simon, I've been a supporter and we met 9 years ago. What length of contract are you talking? I've got a two-part question. What term of contract if we go down this path? Are you looking at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years?
Everything is back to back. So if you want the other side to pay you a good amount of money and get annual escalation based on consumer price index and other things, then you've got to be able to offer them, say, if you deliver that, we'll deliver that too. So if the consensus is 15, it's 15. If it's 20, it's 20. But it's not going to be 3 years because people need to spend money to build what they need from us, and we need to spend money to build.
What's the ability then within Sky Renewables, because this technology's here and now, being done. 5 years down the track, 10 years down the track, there's new technology that we can convert tops and trash to SAF or whatever like that for a greater return. What's your vision 15 years down the track? Can we possibly go to that?
I think
higher revenue returns.
I think we have to be realistic in terms of we sign a contract with the other guy and we rely on him to deliver, which means we have to deliver as well. If there is no consensus in terms of why don't we do something else, then we cannot do something else. We need to respect the contract. And in terms of whether the other side will say, oh, we got a better technology, we don't want you, they cannot. Japan and Singapore relies everybody else but themselves on importing renewable resources. Say if Japan reneged on the contract, Australia would be the first one to give them the middle finger. We're not going to supply you anymore. So this is a quid pro quo. It's not like I want you to do this, but I don't want to do this myself. It doesn't work that way, I don't think.
So technology's moving forward.
Yep.
If there's an opportunity,
Here's my ticket. My ticket.
Well, the simple answer is the entire sugarcane crop is money. We're just talking about tops and trash. We're not even talking about bagasse. We're not talking about sugar juice. That's not in our gambit right now. But you know, this is the next few steps. We cannot really speak to that at this point. Anything to add, guys?
I just wanted to say, there's a lot of slides there, but the one that I think some have missed, because I've had a few calls from a few growers over this project, is they've said to me $15 a tonne isn't enough to cover the extra bins and the rail and all the extra grower costs. But what Simon's proposing is that he's going to pay for all of that and take the risk of that. And after all of those costs are paid for by Sky Renewables, he's offering to pay you $15 per tonne for the tops and trash. Now, if there's not $15 a tonne left over, then the project doesn't go ahead. But there's been a bit of work done already, and if grower support for the project's there, then one of the things I'm helping Sky Renewables with is who are the experts in Brazil and Thailand and India who have done separation plants and whole of crop harvesting. Like, I get your point, Terry, they mightn't have done it in the Burdekin, and I'm sure they're going to come and talk to you when they come here, but they're going to make sure that Simon's got enough money to pay for all of the things that he's got to do, and that there's going to be $15 a tonne left over for you. And if that's not right, and I'm hearing some scepticism about it, but I just wanted to clarify that risk is not yours. That the offer is that you get paid $15 a tonne for the tops and trash, and Sky Renewables are paying for the logistics and all of the extra costs. And there'll be some experts come here when the project gets to the next step, and I've recommended a couple of them. One of them's DataGrow, the guys that built ethanol in Brazil. They're one of the ones I've recommended that can come here and really make sure that there's $15 a tonne left over for you after all of those costs are paid.
Phil, you're not, please.
I'd just like to say that a lot of people are getting bogged down in the detail, which is natural. People want to know how things are going to work, how we're going to get the cane to separation and all that. And I'll just say, don't worry about that. That's not what we're up to. Worry about that this is an opportunity, probably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for growers in the Burdekin and perhaps growers in Australia or Queensland at least, a real opportunity to take control of your own destiny. All this renewable energy stuff is going to happen. It's going to happen with or without our participation. But we can get in on the ground floor and actually make some money out of it, because if we don't do it now, in 10 years' time, some big corporate like Mio Farming or Rapazadas, they'll build a factory and they'll own all the land and they'll be the new Wilmars that we all hate. But that's the way we're going. Family farms, if we don't do something and actually try and get some more revenue, are going to disappear. They're just going to disappear. We need more revenue. We need more technology. We need to make the industry sexy again. We need to attract people into the industry, because there's a lot of old growers here. There's some young growers, which is good, but we need more young growers. We need people that want to come and work on the land and be involved. Otherwise, we're all just going to go the way of the dinosaurs. So Simon's taking all the risk. This is probably, I've been involved in certainly representation for more than 20 years. This is the first project that I've ever seen where the growers aren't being asked to put real money at risk. He's asking us to put some skin in the game, 20 cents a tonne or whatever it is, doesn't even worry me. It's going to go into account. If nothing happens and we don't sign any contracts, you'll get the money back. We've never had an offer like that before. So it really is the lowest risk way for us to have a real opportunity and making some headway. Now, I understand it's going to be difficult. Change is always difficult, but it can be done, it needs to be done, and it's going to happen one way or the other. And one of the main things is, with this 36-month exclusivity deal, is because when Wilmar gets the call from the Singaporean government, we want this to happen, they're just going to cut, if they can, they'll cut us out of it. They'll just do it without us, without Simon, without any of the growers. They'll say, it's our crop, we'll do it. It's our cane, we buy it when it goes to the siding. We can't be in that position. So it's important that growers support this. All growers, not just the growers in this room, but speak to your friends. You're not being asked for too much, and we need to have it so that when Simon and BRF and everyone else and all the other collectors here get together and go to whoever they got to see, that they can say, we've got 90% of the growers on board, willing to sign contracts if this all goes the way that we think it's going to go. At the end of the day, you're going to get a contract put in front of you, and you will have the opportunity to say no. You will not, whatever you do today or in the next week, there's nothing that says you must supply. At the end of the day, even if it's the best deal that ever's going to come along, and you're silly enough to say, no, I don't want to sign a contract, it's up to you. You won't be forced to. That's all I've got to say.
I agree, there's no evidence. I agree.
Can I just say on that, well said, I still say the missing thread in this is Wilmar, right? They've got levers to pull, other than unless Singapore and government has just hold a stick at them. If they're not on board and the inefficiencies of cutting grain all of a sudden leaves 10% standover in the panic, it's 100% energy and food. That's bigger, whilst I'm just losing the extra fibre that we're talking about. Is there any high level stuff that you think we could put in place, like an updated CSA to say, with this provision, like the insurance on not still getting it all crushed on time is a bigger penalty than what it is now? Or otherwise, that eventuality you said could still happen. They could just not crush it 3 years in a row, hurt us, then say, oh, we'll take it, make it work, bring it up again, right? They've still got a pretty big bloody say in how whether this works or not.
I think the Singapore government has a pretty big stick over everyone, right?
Why do you think Wilmar call itself Wilmar Sugar and Renewables now? Why? That's because Wilmar International makes 2.33% net profit in all their business. $100 they bring in, they make $2.3. Our project, easily 5 times that. You think Wilmar doesn't know? Why do they call themselves renewables now? Because they want to go there. And we're offering them something they should know, but you have already know, but it's too hard. Nobody in Wilmar will dedicate the time I did, on my own resource, my own money, to do this. And that's why we are ahead of them. And we're not taking the business away. We are just, you do what you do, but the kind of things that we are not using today, can we please, I'm not asking for their permission, I'm asking for the collaboration. And every collaboration comes with a dollar sign. And I'm sure at some point, Wilmar will even want to invest in this. Because nobody argues with money, not Mr. Kwok. Asian businessmen, where I come from, they either don't want to do it or they want it all.
That's Simon, can I ask a question?
He's next.
He's been waiting for
Is that on? Look, guys, I'm 100% for this, but there's lots of stuff that you got to consider. The moment you boast that you're not burning cane anymore, I reckon you're going to close. There's going to be a gate closed behind you. So just don't beat your chest on that particular thing. As far as shifting mass, every kilo you shift costs money. Thinking about putting 2 rail lines to the mill, you guys didn't even have, for Calamia Mill, loco drivers to get cane to the mill at the end of the last season. Is someone going to do that? every kilo you shift means something. And while I'll say this and people go, this will never work, and because it probably won't, is we need to work, and Ricky everyone would understand it here. The moment you put a harvester in the road, it costs energy. 90 horsepower for a primary extractor, so you turn that off. Okay, so you've got a smaller engine in your sugarcane harvester. Every little bit of stuff that harvester reduces in capital cost. There's a whole list of things, but I wouldn't go out and buy a new CH570 without a primary extractor because you'll end up. But what I'm saying is every move you make, we've got to reduce the cost, because you mentioned something about down south, you're going to ship it down to Gladstone for some reason. The last time I looked, Singapore was that way.
Gasification and LNG ships.
Why are we not doing it here?
There's no LNG because the
There's an LNG pipeline.
Yeah, but they don't have a terminal there.
Oh, gee, we better fix that. What I'm saying is we need to look at every little box from just the harvesting is one box. The getting that cane mass to the siding alone is you're just double, like Ricky said before, you're doubling your trips to the siding. Maybe when automation comes, you can have haul-outs that don't have drivers, but I think that's 10 plus years at least away.
Well, that's when there's data growth in the back.
Quick answer to your question. Combine 400 years of experience. The only thing we know is shit happens all the time.
Oh,
and
for sure.
That's why we are very careful. This is not about getting how many tons of tops and trash. This is about getting it from here to there in the form you want.
Yeah.
You're right. Every bit of it is money. So you think about transporting it to Townsville Port by truck versus taking it to Baxter by train. You think what do you think is cheaper?
You ever priced anything on Queensland Rail?
Queensland Rail. I drive up and down from Brisbane to here maybe twice a month. How many times I see a train on that track?
Not very many.
Exactly. They're underutilized.
They've priced themselves out of business.
Right. That's why this thing needs to be a trade deal, because Queensland, Australia, is not making money. It's going to be in a 10-year deficit. If you can do a trade deal with somebody, another AAA country in Asia, and they'll pay you, they're more concerned about you not supplying them, then why not? And then investing in a bit of things, getting the Queensland Rail to work with us, how hard is it? Greg and I are going to go to Gladstone tomorrow. You can't imagine the reception we have just on email. Everybody wants to do something. And this makes sense because you get dollar sign every part of the way, and you have Singapore paying you. How often do we get somebody to do that? Right?
Oh, look, I 100% agree. But all I was looking at the shortcut, every step.
Yes, absolutely.
We need, and just so you know, there's big pressure on government now because the gas companies are not paying their royalties to the Australian people, and that could change the price of gas in our country as well. Anyway, enough of that.
Thanks for the question. We understand that.
Simon, you probably want to introduce, there's a gentleman there next to Simon in the picture. His name is Clinton Dines. He ran BHP in China for 30 years. 36 years. So if someone knows about getting something from somewhere to somewhere in the back of a truck, I reckon Clinton Dines
Look,
would
I can agree with you with that, but our logistics problem is from the cane paddock.
Logistics game more than anything else.
That's all it is, and that all goes into the
Yeah.
study.
Once you're on a ship, the cost per tonne is cheap, apart from shipping port charges.
Simon, what percentage of the burden tons do you need to sign up? That's what I'm going to ask you. To take to the Singaporean government. We're just going round and round so they can see how. Right now, so
That's what
get those numbers.
that's what it's about. It's about whether you guys think there's value in it. If not, blow it up and we all walk away and stop wasting our time.
I tell you what, Glenn.
I'm not trying to.
I know. I am not looking for a ton number now, because this it's just a way to help me to help you. If I go to Singapore government and I said, I got 90% of applicants signed up, I go to whoever, I get my money like this, right? And by the time I present you with a real contract, with a real price, real terms, that's the time you're going to sign or you don't sign. And I'm not going to take a contract to you knowing that you won't sign. So this is not about how many tons do I need to secure to go back to Singapore. This is about how do we stand together. Our first project, for example, all we need is about 400,000 tons of briquettes, which is about, taking moisture into consideration, is about 640,000 tons of green trash.
So the people who get it first feel better and better.
Absolutely, that's fact of life.
I think we can all get caught up. Like, I'm not a grower, I don't know how to make gas. I just sit here and run these things. But think about Simon sitting in a room, 9,000 k's that way, with a heap of Singaporeans that are saying, look, we're very prepared to throw the money that's required to do everything that you think is a problem, we'll pay for it to get fixed. How do you guarantee that you've got enough growers to supply the shit we want to buy? And you guys are sitting here going, what do we have to do? I think he's asking you to say, we'll give you an exclusive contract to put 20 cents a tonne in to see whether the other guys will say, and that's all they need to see to say, we're in.
Sorry, Joe, I'm going to cut in front of you. I've got one quick one, my old mate sits beside me. When they legislate us not to burn, and all of a sudden we say, well, shit, we should have signed up for this. So I've been in right from the word go when I've heard about right from the word go. If we don't do it now, you know who's in government, right?
For a while.
And could do another next term again because there's a lot of dickens out there, excuse the French. But the problem is they will legislate us not to burn. It'll happen. And I reckon it'll happen in his term. So why not get a couple of bucks out of it while we're going for it? That's all I've got to say. I'm in and I think it's a good thing.
So Simon, realistically, people have come here tonight as farmers with the opportunity of considering whether or not to participate. Can I ask you how an individual farmer can decide to participate in this project? And on top of that, which was asked earlier, what would you consider a minimum number of participation or percentage of participation is necessary for you to go ahead?
There is no minimum number. Even if all of you participate, 8 million tons, 20 cents per ton is $1.6 million, right? It's not going to help me to cross the line. I'm not asking for the money, and I can't touch it. So I'm not asking for the money for me to spend.
That's not what we're asking, Simon. What number?
I want all. I've always wanted all. Yeah. And I got Russell Campbell from QSL here, so he's worked out the mechanism in terms of how you can participate. We try to minimize the trouble for you. Russell, can you spend a minute?
Evening. I guess, yeah, so QSL has been invited along, and obviously these growers here and Greg and Simon have talked to QSL for a little while about it. And I think firstly, we just echo most sentiment here is that anything that's going to put a couple of bucks extra in a grower's pocket is something that we support, and acknowledge that there's still a few things that need to be worked out. But one of the things that we can help do and make quite easy, and sort of the reason that I'm here to talk about today, is that we've got a form up the back where we can take a debit from your cane pay and put it directly into that escrow account. So we can put it in there, we'll make it simple for you so you don't have to think about it. We can work out your tons, and basically our goal or our ambition for this to make it as easy as possible for the grower who wants to commit to the project to do it. I know that not everyone probably is always with QSL or marketing with QSL, but the thing I would say is we reached out to Wilmar and asked them, you know, hey, is there anything on their side? And we got no, was sort of the answer back. So can't help you if you're not marketing with me, but if you are, it's quite a simple process. We do hundreds of lease payments and third-party payments every week. So it's not a foreign concept to us. All we'd do is get you to sign a form tonight, that you're interested in doing it, and then we'll contact you in the next week to confirm the value and the date of the payment out of your next advance. So it can be very simple. a signature and your ABN is all we really need.
Well, that's good you say that. And you raised about Wilmar, might do the same as well for there. And that brings up a point that's been worrying me, because we're apparently going to rely so much on the mills to make all this happen. Why isn't Wilmar representative here with you, sitting up that head, to answer the questions?
We've explained that.
Huh?
We've explained that.
Wilmar said no.
Why?
They said no, Chris. They didn't say.
I have written to Mr. Kwok himself 3 times in the last 3 years. And every time he referred me to Jean-Luc sitting in Switzerland. And Jean-Luc right away referred me to Mark Greenwood. And you can imagine those discussions went nowhere. It's not because we are not legitimate. It's not because what we said is full of shit. It's because they don't want to listen. And that's why we are upping our game in terms of taking the entire economics to Singapore. And in Asia, no businessman refuses to listen to the government, period, especially in Singapore. And if you're Mr. Kwok, you see the numbers in this, you like it. Even if you don't, Mr. Government, I'll do it for you. Can I actually get that piece of land down Orchard Road, please? Right? Mr. Kwok will never lose. It's how we make it a win-win. And I'm 100% confident, some of you may not agree, I'm 100% confident that we can do it. My background is in investment. I was a lawyer in investment, in private equity, and everything else. I read the language. I talk the language. So you got to give me a go. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Nothing happened, right? You're not foregoing anything. So just let me have that chance. And imagine if I have a piece of paper with everybody agreeing to do this. I go to the Queensland Parliament, I go to Treasury, I go to Singapore, I go to Temasek. What can we get? Nothing. We'll get anything, everything. That's because you are the cane growers. Everything comes from you. Wilmar is a processor, right? So that's why I'm asking for everybody to do this, not because I want 1.6 million in my pocket, I won't. It's because you need to speak with that voice that would make everybody whoa, right? Want to talk the agreement?
What are you down the back? He's had his hand up forever.
But one last question, John, and I'll bring the microphone to you. But the other thing that I just quickly wanted to say is that Simon shared the draft of the collaboration and confidentiality agreement, and we've had our in-house company secretary and legal counsel review it. And what we would just say in general terms is it's quite a standard deed, quite a standard lot of clauses in there that are basically putting that exclusivity in there that Simon's chasing. But you'll need to make sure that you get that independently done by yourselves and reviewed and signed, and then we'll already wait for your authorisation effectively to make the payment. So that it's sort of a very simple process for us at our point of view. But yeah, I'll take this to John.
Simon, I'm just curious to know, one, have you heard of Benegrass and Superchar? And then 2, like before you build a hotel, you build a model. And a lot of people here would probably love to see a working model. Have you thought about, like Ricky said, you'd have to double your bin fleet or double your thing. Somewhere that cuts green like Mossman already has a rail network. If you did a pilot program up there that works, they might only have 200,000 tonne, I'm not sure. And then have a meeting like this, you might say, look, it's already happening up there. It works already. And have you heard of Benegrass, or the audience can be harvested every 4 to 5 months on your fallow crops? Could be an option like Ricky said, or someone said, instead of plant canes way too big to send in, if you're growing Benegrass on your fallow area, planting it, say, after your traditional planting season, so plant, say, I don't know, October, harvest it before these things crank off.
Great point. We need to do it. And the reason why I want you to have skin in the game is because I don't want to be the guy who's always chasing you. I want you to chase me. That's it. Yeah.
Simon, what the hell's going on? What have you done? You said you're going to engage Data Grow. Have you? What are they saying? When are they coming? I want you to chase me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to do.
But I'm just interested to know why you went to the district that burns first rather than somewhere that cuts greens already.
Right? You want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah. There you go.
The truth is, Burdekin has got the highest yield per hectare. The second truth is, if you burn, I'm competing with zero value, right? In places where they cut green, they can sell it and I have to match it. Not that I cannot, it's just when I started 7 years ago, Singapore wasn't as desperate. Japan wasn't as desperate. Now they are, which means they will pay the money. I want to be everywhere. I want to be in England. It's just...
Simon, I got the answer to that. They need the trash collected. Where, right? Yeah. Push through the trash.
No, even that. Even that, I'm happy to take 60%. It's just I don't have the resources to be everywhere. But when this happens, and these guys, they all want everything. I'm going to go to other parts like this. If you give me the resources, I can move air to Mackay. Right? It's just, you guys have to be in this. You guys have to be in this because it's you. I am just an instrument. I'm just an instrument. And because I believe it so much, I got better things to do if I don't believe it so much. After 8 years, I'm still excited. You know, my heart's beating very fast because the time is now. The only better time was yesterday. The time is now, right?
So, I was thinking very, very similar to what John said a minute ago, but I wasn't thinking about Mossman. I understand why you chose Bergen. It makes sense. You benchmarked here, you moved to there, but it's otherwise. I was thinking myself, an actual pilot program in Bergen with just a half of it. You'd get every bit of information that you need. Be the mill on the side, so it could be a collaboration. And I think you guys have even done this already. But maybe that's a really good step to start.
I think everyone's forgetting. He's got to do his feasibility project. He's raising money to do that. Datacom's grant coming out from Brazil. All of that is going to get done.
Yeah, it's going to happen exactly, and that's what I was suggesting. And I think the Bergen is the place to do that.
I could tell you where we think it's going to happen, but I won't. But it is a major grower who has a lot of pessimism against the project as well. And Simon said, well, put your money where your mouth is. We're doing a project on your place. Yep. So this is all going to happen during the feasibility study. We're going round and round in circles. Yep. So
I was in Mossman a few times, more than a few times, especially in the final days. It was sad. And I wish I could do something there. The first thing I told them is forget about cane. Grow a sunham, grow an energy crop, do 2 seasons a year. Tear away the mill, build a new pelleting plant. But I cannot offer things I cannot deliver. That's why I am still very, very sad about Mossman. And you think about Mossman, compared with Burdekin. Think about it. 2 things. Mills getting old, disrepair, people grow less cane. That's Mossman. So, Burdekin?
Yes, thanks, Simon. I think, we are probably going round in circles, and I think it's important that everyone looks at this and looks at the details and not get too held up on the logistics. I mean, the first time I met Simon, I literally asked him every single question that's been asked here tonight, and I think these guys, Richard and Greg, have done an enormous amount of work, like a phenomenal amount of work. I saw at Richard's farm there, he had piles of trash, and they were doing trials with trash. They were trying to do all sorts of things with trash. And, this wasn't the first one off, not the first cab off the... And Phil, sorry. Phil was there as well. This wasn't the first cab off the rank, but I think it's important that, that they're willing to pay for the logistics. So, what's the problem? They'll do the trials. We can all go stand around like farmers do and watch and criticise, like every field day that's ever happened. But I think that's just part of the journey. And the journey doesn't happen next week. It's obviously a long journey. But I think all he's asking for is for the growers to commit. It goes into an account. That account is just set aside, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We keep burning. Who cares? Move on. That's basically all it is. It's nothing more, nothing more scary than that, really. I travel around a lot, and I see a lot of different, projects that happen. I was in New South Wales a couple of weeks ago. They still burn down there. They tried a whole of crop option, which didn't work out, but the thing, probably a lot of those options and the Mossman option, the ketchup Maness and a lot of other projects that they've tried, and the money wasn't there. And they didn't have someone willing to pay to do it. The New South Wales guys had to pay it all themselves because they own the mill as well. So it's basically a different kettle of fish. But you know, this project, you know, you just got to give it a go and see what happens. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing anything. You know, it's up to Simon really to do it. But I'm just saying you just got to give it a go and you know, get in and you know, we get the investment coming in, it'll be good.
I got 3 questions that I was hoping someone would ask but haven't. And Simon, I did pre-warn him, so he's got answers. The first one is, he's wholly or solely going down the road of farmers putting in finance for this project. Is there a way of people outside the farming industry putting money into the project? 2, you're asking for 20 cents a tonne. Some growers may want to put in 40 cents a tonne. Is there an option for that? And 3, there's a guy running around bailing trash at the moment, because one thing we haven't spoken about in all the work we've done is what do we actually do with the trash laying on the ground after we cut plants? And we've been and had a look at a bailing option, horrendously expensive. Is there a way of doing that, or are we still going to burn that trash off the ground?
Okay, thanks, Richard. First question. None of my current investors are growers. None. The last thing they know is about sugarcane. Most of them know me for a long time. Some of them understand energy. Second question. You're welcome to put in as much money as you can, but I'm only taking 20 cents in that pool because that is not for me. That is for your skin in the game. If you want to invest extra, take my email. There's a card on the desk. Take my email, write to me, we can talk. But I'm not really wanting a lot of money because, like I said, the 3 companies I show, Temasek has got $288 million under investment. Parent of Trust Power is global number 209 in the global 500. So JITS has got shitload of money coming from coal. These guys, I made it clear in the first meeting, you've got to finance the feasibilities. And I bet you anything, if these guys were to come in and I go to Treasury, I said, please, can we actually have some more skin in the game from the government? They probably will look at it favorably. So I'm not asking for money to do this. And I'm just asking for money from you guys to 20 cents to demonstrate to the world, nothing's more tangible than money. To demonstrate to the world, the government, the investors, the off-takers, everybody who wants to know that we are a group of people dedicated to this. We are a voice, and everything comes from sugarcane. It's not about technology or anything like that. Obviously, we need technology, but nobody can create something out of nothing, and you got that something. That's what I'm asking for. Third question, I don't know. Right? Anybody can.
Yeah, I think you know what we're going to do with it, Richard. We'll be probably burning that bit, just like the big plant cane. We'll probably burn the big plant cane. You know, if a machine can do it, we'll do it. You know what it is, yeah, you know. But that's what we'll do. We'll have to still burn trash. Fair enough. We still got to burn some trash, whatever. But whatever we can get in and get paid for, we get paid for.
Yeah, and everyone burns. Like everyone says they cut green, but they all burn something. So that's another thing.
Shall we do the final question? Unless you've got some burning question you want to ask.
Quick one. If you want to, when do you want people to sign up by? When's the close-off date? And if you are thinking about it, can you read up more on it and say give you an answer in 3 months' time, or do you want your answer tonight? When do you want the answer, and do you have the option in 4 months' time coming into it?
Right. This is a one-time offer. This is your gift in terms of exclusivity, in terms of 20 cents, and my gift in terms of a price as well as equity. This is for the people who are prepared to commit before end of May. And if you commit, I think it's only fair for you to expect the other guys not to get the same terms, right? So this offer on the table, please let me know your answer before end of May, another 3 weeks.
Yes. And like like Russell said, obviously encourage, I've seen the agreement, obviously seek your own advice, and if you don't like it, don't sign it. It's pretty straightforward.
That's it. No, yeah. It's at the end of the day, it all comes back to the individual growers. Like I said, we've facilitated as far as it can go with Simon, and now the ball's in your court. You either decide whether this has got merit, or if we don't want to support it, we just, nothing lost, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So you guys are the ones that are signing the agreement. It's nothing to do with any of the collectives, and you choose whether you want to get your independent legal advice if you want to move ahead with it.
Please take a card of mine there, send me an email, because I'm not sure I can read all the handwritings. Send me an email. I'll send you this presentation, and questions just addressed to me. There's nothing I love more than talking directly to growers. Okay? So thank you very much.
Final question, which I think, I haven't signed up for this new deal.
So where's the forms to sign? On the back. I don't want to go through QSL. I just want to give you the money. So the forms are there. So I just sign the form and pay by the end of May, is what you're saying.
I want commitment, sign the form before end of May, and then you can, I haven't even got an account. I need to open an account, and then you can ask QSL to deduct the money and put it in an account. That's not the money I'm going to touch. So make the commitment, take your time, put it in the account, or whatever, do with QSL. Lastly, I really, really am overwhelmed by the support you're showing me and us by just showing up. That's not something I take for granted, and I'm overwhelmed. So let's have this keep going, and then I'll be very, very happy to come back and report maybe every couple of months, and call me, email me. There's nothing I like more than you talking to me, because I cannot talk to everyone. I like to, but I cannot. So please, thank you.